Peter and Paul grew up with different views to show. One from a bankrupt farm in town, the other from a hardened ghetto. But both of them heard the call just as soon as they turned 18. Said goodbye to their families, heading off to become Marines.
I have the honor and the privilege of serving on the Combined Arms team here in Houston, Texas. And I am a Marine Corps veteran. I had served from 1999 to 2007 as an infantryman and deployed to Operation Iraqi Freedom from 2004 to 2005. And after I left service, uniform service, I was able to continue my public service out of uniform by helping veterans and their families connect with resources and services that they need. A few years ago, we created the Combined Arms system, the Combined Arms model, the Combined Arms backbone, so to speak, in order to ensure that service members, veterans, and their families can accelerate their transition from military to civilian life. And really what that means is we knew that the veteran service landscape was highly fragmented. None of the organizations and agencies serving veterans and their families shared clients between one another, shared data, shared best practices, or got together on a routine basis to understand how to refer to one another. So we essentially set up Combined Arms to solve for those problems and make sure that we were becoming much more collaborative in the impact that we were delivering. To date, we've served over 20,000 veterans and family members by connecting them to about 150 different government agencies and nonprofit organizations, mostly in the state of Texas, but many of our organizations are national, so there is the opportunity to serve folks outside of Texas. So the fact that we're now seeing more high priority social service needs emerge in the top 5 categories of service really shows why a coordinated service model or a coordinated service backbone like Combined Arms needs to exist, and particularly in the communities that thousands of veterans are returning to, like Texas and the greater Houston area where we started.
How you doing? My name is Earl, Lundy III. I'm an Army veteran, Purple Heart recipient. I served in the Army. It's 3 generations of Army veterans. I served, my grandfather served, my father served in the 82nd Airborne Division. So it was an honor to serve and be a part of that legacy. And I'm, when I was in Afghanistan, I was injured in 2008. I got hit by a vehicle IED while I was in the house, and the house collapsed down on me, leaving me up under the rubble for 4 to 5 hours. It was the darkest place, the darkest time in my life, where it was just me, and I struggled through that, conscious the whole time and just figuring out what I'm gonna do, with my life, and what's going on and how I'm gonna come back from this situation. But with that process, my team was able to find me after those 4 hours and pull me out. And my life really truly started to begin all over again. When I'm coming back home, it was tough because I was dealing with PTSD, and I had a full injury. I had left leg nerve damage, shoulder injury, had a traumatic TBI, and also I had PTSD, massive PTSD. We moved to Houston. It was just me and my wife and my kids, and away from my family that are currently in South Carolina, and so it's just us. And that first year was not a good one for me. Dealing with pain all over my body, PTSD as well, isolation. That wasn't a good combination for me. And I wanted to isolate myself to the point where I don't want to be around anybody, and that made my PTSD symptoms rise even more. And so what worked for me when that happened was getting involved in the veteran organization. Once my wife, she made a call to Wounded Warrior Project, unbeknownst to me and everything, and told me, here, you need help. Let's do this, because we can't continue to move forward with this, with things, getting worse the way they were, and I needed to get out, and so with Wounded Warrior Project, they reached out to me, and now John Boerstler, which is the Combined Arms CEO, he reached out to me and told me, let's just get out the house and go to Topgolf and mingle with other veterans. And for me, that was one of the biggest things for me. It helped me, just getting back to people that I've been connecting with for 4 to 5 years. While I was in the military, getting back that camaraderie, people who I served with was a blessing for me to be back connected with it, back with my family, so to speak, once again. Yeah. So when it comes to training and health and wellness, that's a big component of my life. It helped save my life. For me, when I was back home when I was injured, I was sitting in my garage. I only had a 20-pound weight, just one 20-pound weight. And I have, I'm still injured, I'm still on crutches, and I have a tube sticking out my leg from where I had an injury at, where my nerve damage is. And they didn't look at my injuries or anything, or what I've been through. They looked at me for who I was, and they were saying I'm always being real with them, and they was being real with me. Like, what do I need to do to become better? And they asked me why. I said, because your voice matters. And that's what we always trying to instill in them, and when they're going through, because they had a lot of trials and tribulations when they was coming up. But I like to say what I've been through physically, they went through mentally. I was trapped up under a lot of rubble, a lot of stuff that was weighing me down. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. I really couldn't move. And I was in the darkest place that I ever been in my life. And sometimes they felt like that. And I'll tell them, I've been there. I know what you feel like. I've been there physically, and I tell them my story, and they tell me, how you overcome that? I said, because I have something to live for, and that's just sparked confidence and perseverance within themselves, saying this thing can't hold me down. I can always continue to move forward and do something positive and have an impact in other people's lives, whoever I come in contact with, and that's what I continue to strive to do today.
My name is Kristin Christy. I'm a military spouse. In fact, I am a product of the Air Force. My dad was in the Air Force, and so it came as no surprise when I married someone in the Air Force. Don Christy and I, our first assignment was Grand Forks, North Dakota, and we started our family, and then we moved to Colorado Springs. And we had another child, so 2 boys, and he decided that his career was not going the way that he planned it. So he decided to join the Air Force Reserve. And we really loved it because it was the best of both worlds. And we thought we were going to stay in Colorado Springs for the rest of his career. 2003, Don came home. He was sort of asking my permission, but you don't typically do that in the military. And he knew what my answer would be. But as a squadron commander, he was asked to get volunteers for a deployment to Baghdad. And he did not feel right asking for volunteers unless his name was at the top of the list. To me, that's a true leader. A manager or supervisor says go, and a leader says let's go. And Don said let's go. And he was the only one chosen from that list. 2004, he went to Baghdad. He was second in command at the Baghdad airport. And the boys and I heard about Toby Keith coming through the airport on a USO tour, and the Secretary of Defense coming for a tour. We didn't really hear about the other things. He was gone for 4.5 months, which doesn't sound like a whole lot of time, but when you're in a war zone and your loved one's in a war zone, it can seem like forever. But we counted on our community. But he came home after 4.5 months, and I will tell you, post-traumatic stress was a stowaway in his bag. He came back different. and his fingernails were bitten down to the nubs. He wasn't sleeping. It's a lot of what we hear about. 4 years later, Don took his life. Our boys were 12 and 14 at the time. And his suicide is something that our family will live with for the rest of our lives. Our oldest son is 27, and he's been missing for over 5 years. In part to the suicide. It triggered bipolar in him early. Our youngest son has attempted suicide. In fact, both boys did. I am not a counselor. I'm a mom. I feel like I failed as a mom. I feel like I failed as a spouse. But in our family, suicide's contagious. But think about what else is contagious. And I'm not talking COVID. How about a smile or a kind word? There's a saying, it takes nothing away from a burning candle to light another candle. It takes no wax. It takes no wax, no wick, no fire. And that candle does not have to be burning bright. It can be a glimmer, a flicker of a flame. You can shine just a little bit, but when you shine, when you are contagiously spreading kind words, spreading smiles, using people's first names, you see them as an individual. That's connection. I wish I could go back and do things differently. I will say that I felt guilty. And in fact, there were people that blamed me, family members that blamed me. And I came to learn that it's not guilt, it's regret. Guilt is when you do something that you know is wrong. Regret is when you do your best and the outcome is not what you expected. So I live with that regret, but I flipped it on its head. I can't change my circumstances. I can certainly try and help other people's circumstances. Let my hindsight be someone else's foresight. It's okay to ask for help. Even if you aren't the one that needs the help, but someone that you care about in your community needs help, walk alongside of them. Call for a friend. It's okay to call for a friend, but be there for them. We aren't made to do life alone. So do it together. Be that light for someone. Help illuminate their darkness. HOPE is an acronym. It has two definitions. Hold on, pain eases. Some people say hold on, pain ends, but I guarantee that our pain will never end. And it's okay, but it does ease. The other definition is help one person every day. What I have found is when the definition for me is hold on, pain eases, it helps me to help one person every day. Because helping that person helps my pain ease.
Hey, my name's Evan Owens, and I'm here with Reboot Recovery, where we're overcoming trauma together so that we can embrace a brighter future. You know, so many of us, we deal with traumas in our lives, and if we don't ever fully recover, if we're not careful, that trauma can end up controlling our lives. And since 2011, over 10,000 people have overcame trauma by going through one of our trauma healing courses. But we want to invite you because now it's your turn. And we believe that anybody can overcome trauma by attending a Reboot course. To do that, you can just go to rebootrecovery.com and you can sign up for free to attend a course today. I think in culture today, there's so many people who have been through devastation, whether that's a bad car accident, a miscarriage, they've been physically abused. I mean, we have data around this that 1 in 6 adults now is prescribed a daily mood-altering medication. 1 in 5, I think it is, girls under the age of 12 is sexually abused. 1 in, I think it's like 12 or 15 boys is sexually abused. So we have a huge issue of trauma. And I think this term trauma sometimes kind of confuses us a little bit because people don't necessarily know, well, maybe I've experienced something bad, but I wouldn't necessarily qualify it as traumatic. But the thing about it is that trauma is subjective by default. Trauma by definition is witnessing or experiencing a terrifying or horrific event. And if you've lived very long, chances are you've experienced something that would qualify as traumatic. Matter of fact, data shows that over 70% of Americans experience something that they would label as traumatic in their lifetime. And so many of us, we deal with these things, and rather than acknowledging them and addressing them and dealing with them, we deny them. We stuff them down. You know, my wife, she is a master stuffer. She's the person, maybe you're like this, that you can go to your trash can in the house and you can see that the trash is piling up, and then you begin just to step down or to push down the trash, hopefully making a little bit more room for more junk that you can put on there. But eventually what starts to happen is that trash can fills up and it starts to spill out on the floor. And now it starts impacting not just you, it impacts the other people in your home as well. And that's what the way trauma works, is that we can stuff it, and we can stuff it for a certain amount of time, but eventually that stuff starts to come out. And when it does, it doesn't just impact us. It impacts the people that we love. It can hurt our healthy relationships. It can make us turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms. It can make it really hard for us to get over symptoms. Maybe we think we're dealing with depression or anxiety or whatever it is, but maybe the real thing we're dealing with is trauma. As human beings, a lot of times there's 4 things that we do as sort of our default response to trauma. Our default response. And what I mean by default is these are things that if we don't apply certain disciplines, this is just where we naturally go. This is the lazy river. This is where we naturally end up. Let me walk through those 4 with you quickly. So the first thing that most of us do is we deny. We deny that the trauma is going to have long-term impact on our lives. Maybe we make excuses for the people who hurt us. Well, he was drinking, that's why he hit me. Or this person was this way, and that's why they hurt me in this way. Whatever it is, we make excuses. We dismiss or we deny that the trauma is going to impact us. And when we do this, we rob ourselves of a healing opportunity, because until you identify the cause, you can't identify the cure. And so we deny. The second thing that we do after we've denied is we start to cry. And this doesn't necessarily mean physical tears, although for some of us that will be how we respond. But it's when we start to feel this flood of emotions. It might be anger, it might be rage, it might be disgust, it might be terror. You know, maybe if you've dealt with something traumatic, you can go years and all of a sudden you're come face to face with the emotions. You're walking through a store and you come across someone, and all of a sudden they remind you of an experience, and boom, there you are, all the emotions flooding your system, your brain. Again, that fight, flight, freeze response takes over. Maybe we're overcome by anxiety and fear, where we used to be maybe self-confident and self-assured. Now we live in this state of maybe I don't have what it takes because this person in my life has made me feel little and made me feel small. And so these emotions are extremely unpleasant. None of us wants to feel terror or disgust or bitterness or anger. We don't want to feel those things. And so we do the third step of the default response, which is we numb. So first we deny, then we cry, and then we numb. Numbing is the natural condition that all of us use to be able to keep from feeling or having to engage the pain and the loss of what that trauma took from us. The problem with numbing agents is that over time, any numbing agent, when used too often, it can either cause more problems itself or it becomes less effective. And so you think about numbing, right? Some of us will turn to escapism. We'll start disappearing into an alternate reality. Some of us will turn to more dangerous things like illegal substances, medications, abuse. Some of us will turn to endless types of self-help. We'll end up looking for answers, in any place we can. But eventually, all those numbing agents will start to wear off. And this goes to the last stage of what we do, which is we run. We run to anyone who's offering hope. We run to people. We run from, a lot of times, one traumatic relationship into another one. We run from one addictive behavior into another one. We run and we run to buy things with money that we don't have and things that we won't even have time to use after we've bought them. And if we're not careful, we end up running. We can end up running for the rest of our lives. And we see this carnage, all this trash that's spilled out of our trash can around us. And we see a life that's now been marked by instability, by broken relationships, by addictions and poor coping mechanisms. And all these things start piling up. And we can lose years of our life because we've been busy denying, crying, numbing, and running. There is a better way. We can actually look to things that are going to help us heal, things that are going to heal us rather than further hurt us. So to give you some very practical steps, some things you can start doing right now. And of course, yes, we want you to go to rebootrecovery.com. We want you to register for one of our courses, or maybe you want to start a course in your community. I don't know, maybe your family does, whatever. Here's some things you can do right now. The first is that we need 3 ingredients to be able to overcome trauma and heal. The first ingredient is safety. The second ingredient is stability. And the third is support. Let me quickly talk through those. Safety. What is safety, right? You might think, well, no one's physically threatening me right now, so I am safe. You might be thinking that. But safety is much more than just physical safety. Safety is a feeling. It's an environment of trust. It's a place where we know that no matter what we share, the people in the room are not going to judge me or look down on me. No matter how horrific my past or my experience, they're going to show me grace. When people lead with grace, it's them saying, hey, whether you accept my advice or reject it, I still love you anyway, because I want the best for you. People who are safe people. Finding safety begins by finding safe people. And safe people don't lead with advice. They lead with listening and understanding, and then they follow with some truth. Right? The other piece about safety is that safety enables us to be able to get out of the dangerous situation. Think about it like an earthquake. If an earthquake's going on, I'm not going to begin moving furniture and rearranging furniture while the earthquake is going on. My number one objective is to find safety. Maybe you're in your own personal earthquake right now, and if that's true, the number one thing you need to do is to find safety until the shaking stops. You do that by finding safe people. You look for people who have been through some things, who can say, hey, here's how I dealt with it. And here's a tip, especially if you're a younger person and you're watching this. A lot of times safe people are going to be people who are far older than you. They're people who have lived through some things, who have some life experiences, who can say, I've survived some earthquakes. Let me show you how to get out of this one alive. They're not people who are necessarily in their own personal earthquakes and can just jump into the pity party pool with you, right? These are people who have survived some stuff. The second thing is we look for stability. Stability is the environment where we're able to begin rebuilding. The earthquake has ended. Now it's stable. I'm able to go back into the home and look at the damage that's done by it, and I can begin to assess it, and I can begin to make some initial repairs. Stability is difficult for us because a lot of times, anytime we can feel emotional, if we're feeling depressed or anxious or whatever it may be, sometimes it can feel like we're very unstable. But stability is the mandatory ingredient needed for us to experience upward building. Imagine if we're trying to build a skyscraper and we don't have a solid foundation, how high could you build? And that's the case a lot of times, is we're trying to build without actually having safety. We're trying to build without having stability. Stability is something that happens over time. You can't rush stability. If you've dealt with something very difficult in your life, give yourself some grace. You're going to need a little bit of time before stability is possible. Just as if an earthquake, 30 seconds after an earthquake's done, I'm not going to go back into the house and start patching the drywall or repainting. That wouldn't make any sense. That would be crazy behavior, right? I would be in a zone where I needed some space to process what had occurred. You might be the same. But the second thing we need to find is stability. Stability happens by us building routines and by continuing to surround ourselves with safe people. The third thing you need is support. This is where an organization like Reboot Recovery steps in. We help you create an environment of safety. We help you find a group of people that are stable, who have been through some stuff, but then are going to be with you for the long-term journey. Because overcoming trauma doesn't happen in just one counseling session or in 8 counseling sessions or in one inpatient treatment. It doesn't work like that, because your symptoms are going to come and your symptoms are going to go. But what you're looking at is, how do I continue to find purpose in this pain? And that's where we get into support. Support now says not only how do you continue to have long-term support, but how do you now use that pain of your past to go support other people? How do you go start helping other people? So the way that we break denying, crying, numbing, and running is by seeking and finding safety, stability, and support. And here's the trick. Here's the thing that most people don't want to hear, and this is the difficult truth. Hope isn't found by avoiding pain. Hope isn't found by numbing your problems. Hope isn't found by trying to make your life less difficult. Hope is actually found on the other side of perseverance. You see, when we persevere through something difficult, it builds our character. And when it builds our character, it enables us to be able to know where hope is produced. Hope isn't produced in numbing our behaviors. Hope is produced when we overcome the difficult thing. That's how we get to hope. And so if you're going through a difficult time right now, one, I encourage you to find some safe people. There are people out there that want to cheerlead for you. There are people in your corner who want the best for you. They want to lead with grace. They want to speak truth into your life, and they want to help you through this difficult season. Find those people. They're there. It may be hard to trust them, but they are there. But then also realize that just running from your problems is not going to help. You have to go through. You have to persevere. And as you persevere through those difficult times, as opposed to being crushed by them, instead of being destroyed, you start to be built up by them. You have character, and that character produces hope. And hope is what we all want. Hope doesn't disappoint us. And so I just want to encourage you, as you're going through this dark season in your life, maybe you or someone you love is going through a difficult time, you will overcome it. I'm a testament to that. I've seen tens of thousands of people through Reboot courses overcome trauma and embrace a brighter future. If they can do it, so can you.
My name is Hector Giron. I'm a United States Navy veteran. I'm involved with the VFW Post 8790 in Spring Branch, Houston, Texas. Some of the projects that we've done in the past are Operation Turkey, where we feed 8,000 homeless Houstonians and veterans for Thanksgiving by providing a meal for them. During Christmas, we provide Christmas trees, Christmas dinners, and Christmas presents for children and veterans around the greater Houston area. I've had the opportunity to nominate veterans and military and wounded warriors at sporting events and any kind of social event around the city. Okay, so we hold our monthly meetings every second Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock at 1560 Foley Street, Houston, Texas, 77055. Another event that we do is we provide school supplies and backpacks for veteran families who are less fortunate and can't afford to have, buy school supplies for their children. We've given away iPads when we teamed up with the VA and Easter Seals Greater Houston at our post. Our steak night's a big event. It's the first Friday of the month. We usually have about 200 steaks that, veterans come and socialize and come get that feeling of the camaraderie that they miss from the military. The reason I got involved in wanting to give back to veterans is when I came back, my transition was a little tough. I thought it was going to be easy to come back and find employment and go to school and know all my benefits, and it was totally the opposite. So it wasn't until I got involved with a nonprofit here in Houston called the Lone Star Veteran Association, which is now Combined Arms. That's when I started, figuring out all the resources and all the stuff that was out there for veterans. I've actually worked for them as well. And I got involved with the VFW because I wanted to help veterans of not just the Iraq and Afghanistan war, but veterans of all generations.
My name is Kyle Shutic. I'm on the board of directors for Project Zero Alliance. I'm a Marine Corps veteran with 2 tours to Iraq and Afghanistan. And I worked in communications inside the Marine Corps. And we decided to kind of start this organization about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and been chugging along ever since. Invited these other fellows to sit on the board with us, and over here we have Kyle. I'll let you introduce yourself.
My name is Kyle Griffin. I'm also on the board of Project Zero Alliance. I was in the Airforce as a crew chief on the KC-135 air refueler. Done deployments all over the world.
I'm Joe Quinto. I'm on the board for Project Zero as well. Marine Corps veteran with multiple tours in Iraq and Somalia. Been invested in this effort with regards to veterans and mental health since starting around 2010. Left the Marine Corps in 2010, and the general consensus, or my feelings is that veterans entering the civilian world were grossly unprepared for the ordeals they would have to contend with outside. And you know, Kyle and I have been involved in the veteran community outside of Project Zero primarily through disaster response, and where a lot of the combat veterans were finding themselves again in disasters, natural disasters throughout the country, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and you could see them flocking to disasters, but also using disasters, oddly enough, as a way to find their own mental health. So when we started with Project Zero, we wanted to address primarily the middle ground of mental health, is not so much as catch me after I fall or help me not fall, but you know, hopefully from our perspective is provide that support as like catch you while you're falling before you hit the bottom.
Since we live in a digital world, yes, you can find us online. You can find us on the Book of Faces, that's right, Facebook, at Rotary Club of Greater Houston Veterans. It's also the same thing. You can find us on the World Wide Web. If not, just Google us on Rotary Club Veterans, and you're gonna see the activities that we do. We have tons of pictures and some videos of the great things that we're doing in the community. There's an adage that states, facts tell and stories sell. I can tell you about the numbers that we have already and the goals that we have. Rotary, day by day, you'll learn is servant leadership, and the stories that you'll hear and the memories that you'll create along the way will bring you a lifetime of achievement. Thank you so much.
I'm Scott Rainey. I'm the District Governor of Rotary International District 5890. We service the greater Houston area and surrounding counties. It's my pleasure as governor to be able to start new clubs. That's one of the most important things is Rotary needs to increase membership. I happen to be a member of the Rotary Club of Space Center in the Clear Lake area, and we have a history that coincides right with the manned space flight program, the development of that. Matter of fact, the first 2 men on the moon were Rotarians. Rotarians do great things. They reach great heights that other people don't. And through that, it's been so exciting to watch this new club develop in our district. The Veterans Club has been one that is serving a community that is so important to each and every one of us. But now, as I've become an adult, I see the importance of serving and finding out how to get back to the community and work with others. And then when we have the opportunity to help veterans and to work with veterans, it just gets even better. Now, Rotary has developed new models for clubs to help attract different people and also allow for people to have flexibility in becoming a Rotarian. And one of those different ways of having a club is what we call cause-based clubs. And that's what the Rotary Club of Greater Houston Veterans is. It's a cause-based club. It's one that focuses on issues that are important to veterans. And not only do we have veterans as members, but we have patriots, those who are interested in veterans events and veterans issues, and helping make sure that we service those who have been so great to serve us in the past. Service above self. That's what Rotary is all about.